has a shot, but it goes the other way.
Lebas.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Week.
A little bit older than you.
I'm not touching this topic. I'm not touching it.
Yeah.
Mediocre, mid-table, rabble, aren't
So I just want to be able to talk as much
If you
crap.
play a night game, he has to turn the bloodlines on.
No one would have believed that he would keep his job for as long as he had. But
The Wednesday Week.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Week Owls Alumni Edition. As you know, we've had a few goalkeepers on in the past, so we seem to be a bit goalkeeper heavy, but as I've said before, they tend to make the right guests. Join us tonight is a stalwart of the Sheffield Wednesday Youth Academy. It's Mr. Richard O'Donnell joining us this evening. How's it going, Rich? Are you all right?
Very well, thank you. Very well. Thanks for having me on.
Currently with Blackpool, and an absolute master of the EFL as well. I feel like I feel like you're playing EFL bingo at as it goes right now. Out of the 70 odd clubs, I think you've played for half of them. So
Yeah.
you might
Not
be
far
able
off, not far off.
might be able to complete it soon.
I have this quite a lot, to be fair. A lot of people mention it, and I think a lot of it, I think there's about 14, maybe 15 clubs on there, but I think maybe 6 or 7 of them were loans. Obviously, probably a few at Sheffield Wednesday and on other clubs as well. So yeah, there has been a few, but things sort of settled down a little bit over the last few years. I had 4 years at Bradford, and then obviously only a year at Rochdale, and going into my second year at Blackpool now. So maybe settling a little bit more now.
Well, we'll get into that because you're sharing a dressing room with. Well, you've recently shared a dressing room with Jordan Rhodes and George Byers and all the rest of it. So if you've got any stories about them or them getting their shoes cut up and defecated and chucked in the shower, I am all ears. So let's. I tell you what, let's go right at the start because we're in a good position here because normally we have to kind of touch on a career prior to getting to Sheffield Wednesday, but you were there right from a young age. So let's get right into it. How old were you? How did it come about? Who was the gaffer and who was the bellend to you in the dressing room?
Right. So started when I was 15 at Sheffield Wednesday. I had a year at Sheffield United before that, and my youth team coach
You can't just gloss over. Wait, you had a year at Sheffield.
Well, I tried to carry on before you heard that bit. Yeah, I had a year. So I played for Sheffield Schoolboys, and my manager there was at Sheffield United at the time, called Tony Tunstall, and he took me to Sheffield United for a year, and then he left and went to Sheffield Wednesday. So he took me with him again. So that's how it started then. So I was 15 then. Left school, got a scholarship, and then went on to be professional till 23, I think I were when I left there. So, yeah, obviously, what would that be? 8 years at the club. Club I supported as a boy. Went to the games from a young age with my uncle, and still support them now. So, yeah, it was good times. Seems a long time ago, but yeah, good times.
At the risk of making you sound like a bit of a homeboy, but not in the way that a lot of people use that phrase. That a lot of your clubs that you've played for are in and around that area. Is it? Do you like your home comforts? Do you like staying in the north? Are you settled there where you are and all the rest of it, or is that just how it came about?
No, I think there is a degree of that. Yeah, 100%. I love being at home. Love being around my family. I'm a big family man. Not just my wife and 2 kids, but obviously my mum and dad and my parents and my wife's parents as well. So, yeah, I think it's nice that both sides of grandparents can see the grandkids often, and kids are settled in schools now. So it's important for me to be sort of at home as much as I can. Obviously, when I went down to Bristol, that was the only. When I went to Wigan, I moved into sort of Manchester way because I'd had 2 years of travelling to Walsall every day from home. So I tried to drop the journey a little bit by going into Manchester. But I was only there for 8 months or so. So then we moved down to Bristol. We had a good 18 months down there. Loved it down there, to be fair. Beautiful place to live. And then ever since then, been back up here and back home where we want to be. When I was down at Bristol, my wife was pregnant with Sophia, my little girl. So the opportunity came to come back to Rotherham, and seemed like a no-brainer because obviously 2 kids down there by yourself, it's difficult enough with one. So the opportunity to come back home was there. So we took it, and we've been here ever since. So wherever I've been, I've just travelled from there.
I'll just come to the lads in just a second, but I just need to ask you, when you were down at Bristol City, did you ever go to that barge? It's called the Apple, and it does a cider called Old Bristolian, and they only sell it by halves, and it's like 7.5%, and it absolutely knocks your back doors off. Did you, that proper old school tractor juice? Did you ever have any of that?
Don't think I did. No, to be fair.
You missed out, bro. If you ever get down there again, go to the barge on the
I can't remember that. Beautiful place to live. There's a lot of nice places down there to go and eat and drink, and I can't remember that one. To be fair, no.
To be fair, my memories of it are pretty hazy, but for a completely different reason. Stevie, I'll come to you first.
Evening, mate. Who was manager when you signed?
So when I first came to the club at 15-year-old, they were actually Chris Turner, and funnily enough, I still speak to Chris on and off. I remember my standout memory of Chris Turner. I was 15, and I came in the summer holidays to train with the youth team. I trained the whole 6 weeks, so I didn't get much of a break from school and going on holiday and stuff. But I played for the under-18s on a Saturday, and I always remember walking into there were a little cabin. It's not like that anymore, but there were a little cabin. Used to call it Anne's Hut, and the old tea lady used to work in there. Used to have coffee and biscuits, and we used to rinse it. But and you were in there, and I walked in one morning just before training, and he was like sort of bigging me up, saying how well I did in the game on the Saturday. And as a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, I was like took back by it, and I couldn't believe he was saying it. So yeah, Chris Turner, I saw him probably only 6 months ago. He came into, so I've done my goalkeeping A license, and he came in for a day because he was working with the LMA at the time. I think he still is, and he came in talking about sort of CVs and job interviews and stuff like that. So yeah, nice to reminisce a little bit with him. So he was the manager when I first joined, and to be fair, there was a lot after that.
Yeah, I was looking. There were quite a sort of turbulent time in terms of the managers at Wednesday over that period. So you went through a fair few, didn't you? Who was there when you broke into the first team?
So the one who gave me my actual debut was Gary Megson. So obviously, a lot of stories about Gary Megson fly around, and do you know what a great guy he was. He was brilliant with me. I'm obviously going to have a lot of time for him, a soft spot, because he gave me my debut and gave me opportunities to play there. So, listen, he was off his head. He was completely off his head.
I mean, give us an example. Like, tell the Grenoside Woods, take you up the back of the cop.
Grenoside.
Oh God, that was just the worst. Funny enough, I was talking about it earlier on with Chris Sedgwick. I went to meet Chris Sedgwick earlier, and we were talking about it. We went. So the first week or two of pre-season, we had a morning session at the training ground. It was just football, and then every afternoon we went to Grenoside Woods, and it started at half an hour. So we did a half an hour run. He pre-planned the routes. Did half an hour. Next day 35. Then obviously 40, 45, 50, 55. It went up to an hour. And I'm running around Grenoside Woods for an hour, and it's up and down and up and down. And it was the worst. I think it was the worst one I've had. I'll be honest, it was right up there. Horrible. But yeah, I mean, what a good guy. Like, some of the lads were scared of him, I'll be honest. Like, Tommy Spur used to play left back, and obviously shooting towards the away stand in the first half. Obviously, he was right next to Gary Megson all the time, and he used to hate it because he'd just be shouting at him. And he literally loved playing second half, and he were away from him. He couldn't wait to get away from him.
That was normally about the time we'd sub him off and all that. You've had enough. Yeah. But yeah. you touched upon it then, Rich. Like, there was because of the level of where the club was at the time, and there was a lot of tumultuous times kicking off. We had Neil Mellor on a few weeks ago talking about it and about that era. And we out of necessity, but also because we had a rich year of decent output from the academy. So you had players like Tommy, Beeves, I think Sean McAllister. I'd argue as well. You know what I mean? So there was a good number of you guys getting through. So you had an element of knowing these players before getting on a pitch with them at Hillsborough, right?
Yeah, 100%. It was a lot different back then, though. It wasn't easier, but it was literally under 18s. and if you got a pro contract, you're training with the first team. So it was quite an easy transition. Whereas now you go, you finish with your 18s, you get another professional contract, you go and train with the 23s, and you have to break through the 23s and get in the first team. And so you've got so many different like levels to get through. But back then it was literally like, say, as soon as you finish your second year scholar and you went into your first year pro, you were training with the first team every day. And I was lucky enough, I trained with the first team when I was, again, because there was no like under 23s or under 18s goalie coach. It was literally Billy Mercer who was doing everything. So when I was coming in from school at 15, 16, I was training with the first team lads, and it was like incredible. So yeah.
Did you get a bit starstruck? Did you get a bit like,
yeah,
oh God,
it was horrendous. Yeah, I remember like not great memories of him in terms of how he played at Wednesday, but like Ola Tidman was there when I was like 15, and he was there, and then Dave Lucas was there, and then going on from that, like you had people like Scott Carson and Ian Turner coming in and people like that, and it was unbelievable to be a part of, really, at such a young age. So I definitely got a good grounding doing that from such a young age, and lucky enough, like I say, because it wasn't how it is now with 18s, 23s first team and having an under 23s goalie coach, under 18s goalie coach, I was straight in with them, and it was brilliant for me.
Not too.
Were there different approaches from the managers as well? As you're going through and you're developing, were they saying different things to you? Because obviously you've gone in at 15, and then you're going through, and you spent 8 years there. You effectively grew up in football at the club. So and as we said, you've seen some managers come and go, and some goalkeepers come and go. Was there anybody that you felt had a particular sort of influence in you from a coaching management point of view? What sort of things were they saying to you?
Well, Billy Mercer was, as well, to now, even like now, he's one of my good friends. I speak to him a lot. Went to his wedding. He came to my wedding. He had such an influence on my career from like I said, being 15 right to when he left it. I think I was about 19, 20 when he left. But he left a massive mark on me, not just on terms of goalkeeping, but as a person, as a human, and looking after myself off the pitch and making sure that I've got backup plans. So Billy encouraged me to do my UEFA B coaching license when I was 19, it's pretty unheard of, really. So I got that done, and I got it done when I was young. And now looking back, I was so glad I did, because it's something that I want to look into when I finish playing. So he was the start of me. Like I say, he was there from when I was 15 to right up till I was 20. I think he was when he left. So he was the biggest influence as a coach. And to be honest, probably again Gary Megson giving me that chance and giving me that opportunity to go out and play and having that real trust in me. He was the biggest one in terms of managers. Like I say, I'm so thankful and grateful that he gave me that opportunity, because he gave me the chance to play out a boyhood dream and something that will never ever leave me. Like I speak to my little boy now, who's Archie, who's like Wednesday mad. He got a season ticket, he goes to every game, and I get like, he'll ask me questions about playing Sheffield Wednesday and every now and again, and the opportunity to speak to him. And obviously I wish he was around when I was still playing there, because it had made his life, to be honest, because he's just obsessed with Sheffield Wednesday. Even having conversations with him and having that opportunity was something that I'll obviously never forget.
I think some people call that child abuse now, Rich, making him Sheffield.
When we went to Peterborough away in playoff first leg last year, I could probably call that child abuse, because he was crying his eyes out. It was a bad day.
I think these lads are the same with their kids. Go on, Simon. My apologies.
That's all right. Obviously, you went through a number of managers, but at the same time, the club was going through a really desperate time financially as well. And we had the winding up order, and then Milan Bandaric came in. Were you shielded from that as players, or were you fully aware of what was going on behind the scenes?
Well, you're obviously aware of it because of what you see it in the press, you read it on social media. Wasn't a massive thing back then. Not showing my age, but yeah, it wasn't a massive thing back then. But you're aware of it, but you don't. It's weird because you are sort of shielded from it, because you can't affect it and you can't do anything about it. So you sort of just get on with job in hand. And I've had it at other clubs as well since, where there's been a few issues going on off the pitch, and it's sort of business as usual. So end of the day, you've got a job to do to sort of go out there and perform, or whatever position you're in. Obviously, I was quite young at the time. It starts affecting you in terms of, am I getting paid and stuff like that. There's a bit
Sorry,
of,
my internet cooked out there. And all of a sudden became the Dan Fudd show there.
Yeah. So unless it comes to a stage where you're worried about getting paid or you're not getting paid, then it's you are just shielding it from a little bit. Yeah.
And what was Milan Mandrick like when he came in? Because obviously we had, I think you went through Dave Allen, didn't you? Lee Strafford, and then obviously Milan came in as the saviour of Sheffield Wednesday. What was he like?
We didn't see an awful lot of him, in fairness. Obviously, at the time, it was a big thing because he sort of helped us out massively from a club point of view and financially. Lee Strafford was a lot more hands-on. We used to see him around the training ground daily. He was more, in your face, whereas Milan Mandaric wasn't really around the training ground as much. So didn't really have much of a relationship with him as such. But Lee Strafford was really, really into it. Obviously, I'm pretty sure he's a Wednesday fan, isn't he? Lee Strafford. So he was more involved, and he was in around it a lot more. But Milan Mandaric was very much based at the ground and sort of keeping away from what was going on day to day. But obviously at the time, like you say, he came in and sort of saved the club financially a little bit. And everyone was really, really pleased that happened. And then, a few things. Obviously, with Gary Megson, obviously strange that he sacked Gary Megson when he did, when we were second in the league. I think we were just behind Sheffield United at the time.
Sheffield United.
Just beat Sheffield United, and it was a little bit strange how it all ended. But knowing Gary Megson now, people know him. I would hazard a guess that he sort of didn't agree with something that Milan Mandaric had to say or did, and he made it known. So, and probably rightly so, and that's how he is, and that's the type of man he is.
That was about 14 years ago, and even now, every time the Sheffield Wednesday job comes up, there are a load of Sheffield Wednesday fans of a certain age that were like, "Get Mego in, he'll get a bloody shorts, and he'll get them all in bloody shape. He looks cool."
Well, them players won't be saying that because they have to go to Grenoside Woods, so that won't be happening.
Yeah, I can't imagine that group nowadays. But you were there when there were some absolute mega characters at the club. So you had your pals from the academy and then you had people like Neil Mellor, Clinton Morrison, JJ. You know what I mean? I mean, you must have some absolute memories of those nutcases. I mean, what's Clinton Morrison like?
Clinton, do you know what? I see Clinton on Sky, and I see David Prutton on Sky. And I can't wrap my head around it, how they've gone to that. I never, ever in a million years thought that them two would be presenting on Sky. They were just both class clowns, non-stop, on you. Just constant laughing and joking, doing something stupid. Two really, really great guys. Do you know what? The dressing room was fantastic. It was quality, absolutely quality. You got people like I say, we were young lads and we'd come through 18s into that sort of dressing room, and we didn't feel like outsiders coming in. They were all just brilliant. With like Darren Pearce as well, James O'Connor, even like Richard Hine. People, there was just so many people, and they were so good with us, to be honest. Because me, Beeves, Tommy, and Luke Bowden we were like class clowns. We were just like a group of kids, and we like messed about and just being stupid as you are at 17, 18, 19-year-old, and they just didn't even bat an eyelid. Weaves. Still same now. Still speak to Weaves, and he's still exactly how he were back then. Just a proper dressing room, and like dressing rooms that you don't really get anymore, full of them characters and them people. So, like, times have changed, and some of the things that we used to get up to back then isn't really allowed anymore. So,
well, we'll put a pin in that quickly. Stevie, get me out of this hole before we get cancelled.
I was about to say, like what?
Too many things.
Yeah. Talk to me about putting the shirt on and stepping out for the first team for the first time as a Wednesday out. What's that like? You're living a dream that we want to. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what? When you just said that, I've got goosebumps because I think about it now, and I remember We've got injured. And like I say, Gary Megson was the manager. And to be honest, I just expected him to go and get someone in on loan or something like that and play them. But he sort of said to me a few days before, said, listen, you're going to play. I'm going to give you a chance to play. And it was Southampton away, who were absolutely flying. They were top of the league. And it were a 5:30 kickoff live on Sky. So have a bit of that for your first game. And I remember going down there night before, and I roomed with the young keeper who came with us called Sean Cuff. And he was snoring his head off. I didn't get a minute of sleep. I was just wide awake all night and played the game. And to be fair, did well and sort of carried on for a few games after that. Like I say, Gary Megson sort of stuck with me. We lost 2-0, but did well in the game. And Gary Megson stuck with me until he eventually brought in Stephen Bywater, which is another story. If you can have a full podcast on Stephen Bywater, to be honest. But
what year was that, Rich? Because I think I was at that game. I remember Frankie Simek. Was he in that game? And he looked like he was running in treacle for a lot of that game. I remember specifically going, this geezer can get in the bin. God almighty, I was at that game.
What year would that have been? That
2007, 2008, something like that has to be.
No, it'd been more than that because I left school 2005.
2011.
Is that
that sounds about right.
Yeah.
2011.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, if Meko was manager, it would have been, yeah.
Of course it was. Yeah. I definitely went. I was definitely there because I was living in Southampton at the time. And I tell you why I remember it, because we did get beat 2-0. And my landlord, who I was renting the flat from, was Johan Foley's missus's parents. And they got me the tickets for it. There's a little sale for everybody. Go on, Simon.
Yeah.
So second half of the promotion year, where Gary Megson had obviously given you debut and so on and so forth, you were put out on loan, weren't you? Did you go out on loan that season?
So I went to Macclesfield. So my debut was the year before. So I played, like I said, Southampton and a few others, and then the following season was a promotion season. Was it?
Yeah, would have been.
Actually. Yeah,
so you were
at
Alfreton the season before, then the promotion season. Did you get to play for Alfreton? What were you going there for? You coming back from injuries?
That was bizarre. So no, I went. It's such a bad one. So I went on a Tuesday night. I signed on a Tuesday night. They trained at the evening. So I thought I can still train at Wednesday and then go and train there. Just go and get some games. So I signed there on Tuesday night. I got recalled on Thursday.
Is that what it was?
That was it. Job done. Well, I had one training session. I got called back. So, yeah. But yeah, it was the year after. And then that year, I played probably another, first half of the season, I think I played another, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 somewhat games in Cup and League. And then Gary got sacked. I think it might have been just after Christmas. And Paul Jones, not Paul Jones, what was his name that came in?
Dave Jones.
Dave Jones came in.
Dave Jones,
and just didn't, again, one of them things where sort of comes in, he's got his own ideas. He didn't probably, you're just getting a job. You probably didn't want a young lad playing in goal who'd not played many games and this, that, and other. And he sort of brought in, Steve, I think Steve White was already there. I can't remember, actually. That's bad, that. I can't remember. But anyway, so the face didn't really fit with him anyway, put it that way. And again, I was at a contract coming up to summer and I thought, well, if I'm not going to do anything, I'm not going to play much of a part here, I might as well go and carry on getting some games. So I went there and I played another 20 games or something in the league.
Were you on the bench then? Were you on the bench then when Megson's last game, when we beat Sheffield United?
Yes.
You were.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell us about the atmosphere for that game. I mean, were you just sat on that bench just rolling your eyes around and thinking, I want to be on the stand, but also I'll fight somebody to take this chair off me?
Do you know what, mate? It's one of them things where I wish I'd have got a chance to play in Sheffield Derby. I wish I had a chance, and I never did. So it was 1-0, weren't it? And it when Steve Watson, was it when Steve Watson scored that goal?
No, it was Chris O'Grady. That one. Chris O'Grady.
Yeah. So and it's you can't beat them, can you? I'm so glad that they're coming back next year. I can't wait to. I've got a season ticket myself because I coach it in academy, so I get a season ticket through that. So I'll be desperate for that to be on a Sunday, so I can go to that game.
I think it's mate. I think it's safe to say it will be on a Sunday.
Yeah,
and there'll be a few cameras there.
yeah, definitely. But no, they were best games ever. I remember going to Bramall Lane and Tommy scoring and Tuggy scoring that game, and
they had
best games ever.
They had a beam back to Hillsborough for that game because I went to Hillsborough and they had a big screen on the pitch.
That's right.
And we actually sat in the south stand and watched it on the screen. So we couldn't get a ticket.
I just watched it on telly.
How mad is that? Just watched it on telly.
They don't do that anymore, do they?
No,
it's weird. Well, the chairman's not going to pay for that, even though it is a revenue stream. But
what was going to ask you, Richard? Sorry, on the Derby game, because Wednesday lost to Chesterfield away the game before, and there was rumours going around that Mego actually knew he'd been sacked before the Sheffield United game, and the players sort of up their game because I remember them. I went to the Chesterfield game away and we weren't great. And there was rumours going around that the players knew that Mego was on his way and they sort of up the game. Is there any truth in that, or is that just purely?
Not that I knew of, to be honest.
Yeah.
No, maybe people didn't give me the heads up on it, but no, I didn't. I didn't know that. To be fair,
to be fair, Rich, being a Sheffield lad, no one needs to give you any kind of in your ear speech for that sort of game, do they? You know what I mean? It's kind of like, we've got the blades on, and you're already a coiled spring like bloody Popeye.
Great, just great to be involved in them.
What it is, I was going to ask you now. It was we beat them 2-0, and that's the game. So I'll tell you what I was going to say. James O'Connor's missus had gone into labour during that game and had to drive out of the Sheffield United car park. I remember because he came on this show and told us about it. I've just remembered something absolute like an old core memory. So Megson's then been sacked. Dave Jones has come in to see us out for the rest of the season, and we are behind we're behind. It was Charlton, wasn't it, and Sheffield United in that league, and then we got promoted. But I remember you had a good run in the team. I think it was the opening day of the season we played Plymouth, if I remember rightly, around 2010, and you had a stint of being the first choice keeper for a bit, didn't you?
Yeah, not at the beginning of the season. So it was, like I say, I started I probably played half my games the back end of that season when I made my debut, and then another half like the season after.
Right.
But yeah, I had a good decent run in there, to be fair, and it was it was incredible, to be fair. It's so hard to put into words, mate. Honestly, like it was a dream come true. I felt like a little bit of a fraud at times, to be honest. Like I just felt like not that I didn't think I was good. When I think back at it now, it don't really seem real. It doesn't seem like, I don't know. It's so hard to explain.
It seems like another lifetime away, doesn't it? Like
it does. It was a long time ago, but I just remember the feeling of like walking out at Hillsborough and like people singing "Hi Ho Sheffield Wednesday" and getting goose. I just remember getting goosebumps and thinking, "Wow, this is just thinking, don't mess up." And it was just you're more thinking like I was more thinking about messing up than playing well. Like don't mess up. It was just wanted to obviously show what I could do, and it was just incredible. Like I say, I wish that like my lad was around to have seen it because he'd have been proper buzzing.
Have you sat him down and showed him all the old videos that you might have knocking around on DVD?
I think do you know what? I think I've still got my debut game on Sky. Believe it or not, I think it's still on
the planet. On the planet.
I think it's still on the planet.
Yeah.
I think it's still on the planet.
I'll tell you what. I bet. I guarantee you, Rich, your mum's probably got. If your mum in her attic's probably got a load of stuff because I used to be a redcoat at Butlins like 25 years ago. Right, and my mum has got a box. I was on the front cover of the brochure in 2001, and she's got a box of brochures that she's robbed from Lund Poly in Rotherham Town Centre. So you know what I mean. If your mum's out like mine, she's documented it. She's probably got some old gloves, some old boots.
I tell you what she did have. So when I was, how old was this? We were in Championship, and there were a big campaign for season tickets. Get your Premier League return season ticket, and I was the person bang on the front of the whole thing. I had this like Wednesday zip. I can remember it. I remember
really?
a picture. I've got this like Wednesday quarter zip jacket on. I've got my arms up in air on cop, and there's a picture of me there, and it were everywhere on billboards and everything. And she still had that sort of stuff flying around. Yeah.
Incredible.
Mental.
Go on, Stevie. I'll let you pile on.
I've lost my train of thought and I've just brought it back. Yeah. So just on that, you say you're a Wednesdayite, and I'm assuming you're from a family of Wednesdayites as well.
Yeah.
So they must have been really, really proud. You know, was the support always there on a family level?
Yeah. No, they were probably more buzzing than I were, to be fair. It was just, like I say, generations and generations from both sides, my side and my wife's side of family, all Wednesday fans. So, yeah, it was a massive, massive thing for everyone, really. Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah, just everyone was there at every game. My dad just used to go everywhere. He still, to be fair, he still comes up to Blackpool and wherever I'm playing now, even if I'm not playing, to come and watch. But he's when we're down at Bristol, he used to get trained down and come and watch for the day and then go straight back up. And he's always been everywhere. So yeah, it was just for everyone. It was just such a nice like period of my career where, you know, they were on everyone's doorstep. They can just come down the road and go and watch. Mum and Dad lived in Hillsborough, still live just up road. Wisewood. So yeah, it was just brilliant for everyone to just be able to just nip down the road and come and watch a game and then playing at Hillsborough, and it were incredible.
So before we get to the heart-wrenching moment, we had to make a decision to leave the club or try and stick around and stay in there and stuff like that. I want to talk to you about the gang. You know what I mean? Like I said, there was that lineage of our academy breaking into the first team with yourself, Tommy, Beeves, McAllister. I'm trying to think, Bods as well. And Bods was the first one to go, wasn't he? He was the first one to think, fuck this, and kind of left, didn't he? When you saw that gang breaking up, did you think there's an end of an era coming here? But then Spur and Beeves played for a couple of years for us, didn't he?
Yeah, so Bods went over to America. He still lives there now, happily married with kids, and he's still over there now doing coaching. He don't play anymore. He was first to go, and then I think it was Tommy after that. I think he went to Doncaster after that, and then me, and then Beeves I think had another year after I left.
Then went down to Millwall, didn't he?
Yes, he went to MK Dons on loan, I think, while he was still at Wednesday, and I think he went to Millwall permanently. But yeah, I mean, these moments when you come through academy, you know, you make friends for life, and literally best friends for life. Like they were all best men at my wedding. Like Bods was actually in America and surprised me at my wedding. He came all the way to my wedding without telling me for one day, and then flew back to America.
Oh my God!
Which is just like I say, it's one of the things you make friends for life, and like I said, they're all three of them are best pals still. And you know, Beeves has just come back from Australia. He got back last week. So 2 years of not. He went over to Perth. He played in Perth for 2 years, and he's just come back, and he's staying back now. So he's back now. So they came round the other day and saw him and Nicole, his wife, and 2 kids, and you know the kids are picking up. Our kids, both same age. Our kids, 2 kids. So picking up where they left off, and yeah, it's like they've never been away. So, like I say, you come through that and you make friends for life. And obviously, like, there's Palms, I still speak to him. Like I say, Sean McAllister, I don't speak to much anymore, to be fair. But yeah, just incredible people who, like I say, are still my best friends now. And you know, coming through like that and getting to play with your best mates on a football pitch for a team that you all support is just.
I'll say you've
incredible. Really.
That's a big old dream you're leading there. Now, Simon, Stevie, before I move away from Sheffield Wednesday, have you got anything you'd like to add before I make him talk about leaving?
Oh, well, I was going to actually lead into that, to be honest, Dan, because is there a point in your career at a club, because you obviously done a number of clubs since Wednesday, where you suddenly go, the future's no longer here at this club? Is there a point where, obviously, you said about Dave Jones fancied somebody else, and you went out on loan? Was there a point where you went, I ain't, my contract's running out, that's me done?
It has happened since then. I never ever wanted to leave Wednesday ever. I would have stayed there my whole life, my whole career if I could. So it was a bit of a weird. So obviously, like I say, I was on loan at Macclesfield, and I remember driving in one day, and my agent rang me and said, "Club want me to go in. They want to offer you a new contract." So I was like, "Oh, brilliant!" So that was that. My agent at the time was Australian. Well, he was living in Australia. Believe it or not, it's a long way away. But anyway, so he came back for this meeting, and he went up to, I can't remember what the chief exec was called, but he's gone to the ground anyway. Had this meeting, expecting to get offered a contract. I spoke to him about sort of figures and what we'd be looking at, and he came out of the meeting. I was sat there, I waited for him in the car park. I was sat there, came back out, and he was like, "They've changed their mind. They don't want to renew your contract." And I was like, right. And I just,
so they've flown in from Australia to have, on the premise that do discussing a new contract to then rescind it while he's in the air. Christ. And,
yeah,
and,
I can only assume that happened. Yeah. Listen,
and then you've got.
I don't think he flew all the way over just for that. Obviously, he had players in England anyway, and he was coming over or whatever, and he'd arranged to do this meeting while he was here. So it wasn't like he'd come all the way just for that. But yeah, like I say, I'm sat waiting in the car park, and he came out and told me that, and I was like, "Oh, right." And it was just, it was horrible.
Savage, because it's like a penalty shootout. Because it, like, you know, when you're losing a game and you can see it slowing down, your disappointment kind of just slowly builds, right? But when you miss a penalty, everything's gone in a second. Everything's just straight out gone. And in that moment, you've had a penalty shootout type of moment. You've gone, so how much did we get? Well, they've pulled it, and the swiftness in which the realization of what's happening must have, the next 30 seconds a touch of goal, whether you're going to run into traffic or not, innit? You know what I mean?
I honestly felt like crying at the time. I can remember it. I sat there and I'm thinking, like, wow, like I'm coming into this meeting thinking, yeah, I'm going to get another couple of years and a little bit more money and like happy days, like everything's happy, everything's rosy, and then come out and that was that. And I mean, like I say, at the time it was brutal, hard to take. When I look back, probably was the best thing for me to go and forge a career elsewhere. And I sort of think
I was gonna say that, because then you went down to Walsall and you were number one for 2 seasons, right?
Yeah, went down there. I had a year at Chesterfield, which was a bit of an odd one because again, I've signed at Chesterfield for a year on the basis that the goalkeeper was getting sold. He was supposed to be going to Leeds. So I signed there. Tommy Lee was supposed to be going to Leeds, and he never ended up going. I still ended up playing 20-odd games that season because Tommy got injured. But yeah, then my life just sort of changed so much from there because obviously Chesterfield was sort of League Two at the time, and I've left there, and I'm thinking like, okay, I was like at Sheff Wednesday this time last year, and now I'm like leaving League Two. Like, where do I go from here? And I had to go on trial to Walsall. So I went on trial there. I had probably 3 or 4 weeks. Ended up getting a trip. Get on this one. So I went to pre-season. 2 weeks in, I got a trip to Trinidad and Tobago for pre-season, which was just
not too shabby.
Not too shabby. So Trinidad and Tobago, and got offered a year there. And then a few months in, they offered me another 18 months. So I stayed there for 2 years, and that really did kickstart my career. To be fair, because that was the first place where I've gone in, I've been number one. I played 105 consecutive games in all comps. Played every single minute of every game until the last 2 games of the season that I left because he wanted to have a look at the other keeper, which, you know, was fine. It was a bit of a blow because I had this run going on where I played 105 in a row. But yeah, that was, and like I say, I look back, and as horrible as that moment were at the time, not getting offered a contract, it was probably sort of the best thing that could have ever happened to me. I mean, you look at Joe Wildsmith, for example, and he probably would have, I'd imagine you get him on here and he'd say the exact same thing. Like, it would have been horrible for him to leave at the time. But look what he's just done. He's just gone and won League One with a Golden Glove. Obviously, he's just left Derby. He's obviously left. But he'll go on to another really good club, and that sort of kickstarted his career a little bit. Not that he didn't play many games at Wednesday, because he did, but that was probably a fresh start that he needed. And like I said, looking back, that was probably exactly what I needed at the time.
Looking, I've got to ask you just while we're on it. Do you think it's something that Cameron Dawson should consider doing himself, given that we keep buying these, loaning these goalkeepers to come in above him, and he had that great season down at Exeter like he did for his own career, given the experiences that you've had and given the experiences, like you said, that Joe's had, would there be a part, if you had the opportunity now to say to him, listen, have a look around, Sheffield Wednesday ain't the be all and end all? Yeah,
listen, I'm pretty sure that Cam will have some pretty good options. You're talking about a goalkeeper, a very good goalkeeper start, but you're talking about one that, got promoted at League Two a couple of years back. Then he got promoted out of League One, playing the majority of the games, I'd say, and played well when I saw him play this year, certainly anyway. I think he got a little bit of unfair criticism at times. But, I mean, that's... he could look at me and mine and Joe's situation and think, well, maybe that might be the best thing to go and do. But knowing Cam, he'd back it. There's no harm in him backing himself to think, well, you know what, whoever comes in, I'm going to keep that. I'm going to get that spot, and I'm going to go and play.
And he has done. He has done. You've had Vasquez. Yeah, you've had Vasquez. Bailey Peacock Farrell. Who else came in?
Stockdale.
Yeah, you know what I mean? We keep getting all these players in, and he still ends up with the gloves at some point, doesn't he? He still ends up in that goal. Go on, Stevie.
So how does it feel? Just moving into that, getting towards the moving on to the later point of your career. How does it feel traveling up and down the country and being a bit of a journeyman? Did you ever feel that after post Wednesday, was there ever a point where you were at your happiest and you've gone, right, I want to settle? I suppose that comes through. I was just going to say, I suppose that comes through stage of life as well, doesn't it? You're having kids and getting to a point where all of that sort of stuff is happening as well.
Yeah, I mean, when I was at Walsall, I loved every single second of it, because, like I say, I was sort of like the main man there, played all these games, won like player of the year both years, players play, all that sort of stuff, and I got to the point where I could have stayed there, but I got an opportunity to move to Wigan, where I was more than doubling the money I was earning, because Walsall weren't great payers, and I was travelling 2 hours to get there every day. So I made a decision to go there, and I don't regret going there to Wigan, but that was the only probably club that I'd say in my career has not worked out, and I didn't particularly enjoy it, and it just, for whatever reason, it didn't fit. But after that, we went down to Bristol, and we could have stayed there for years and years, to be fair. We absolutely loved it.
It's the only thing was, isn't it?
It's beautiful. What a place to, like, Archie was growing up there, had his proper posh accent. Like, he's just a totally different kid now. He's got a Yorkshire twang, so he... you
probably didn't live in the areas that I know of Bristol. You know what I mean?
We lived in a little place just outside the city called Portishead, and it was a beautiful little marina, and it was beautiful. And we could have stayed there.
It used to be a right shithole, did Portishead. It used to be an absolute hole, and they gentrified it about 10, 15 years ago, and it's stunning, isn't it?
Yeah, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Like I say, we were settled there, and I was under no pressure, to be fair, to leave the club when I left at all. The manager said that to me. The club said that to me. I just felt that it was the right thing to do family-wise to come. Like I said, Rotherham wanted to take me, and I just felt it was the right thing to do for family reasons, because Laura was pregnant again. And I thought, as nice as it was down in Bristol and we loved it, it was difficult at times because
it's so
me and Laura were just stuck. Yeah, we were stuck. It was just us two and Archie, so it was hard to, we couldn't have a life ourselves in terms of going out for a night out, even just going out for a meal, just me and Laura, and having a little bit of time together. So we made that decision to come back up as a family, and like I say, we've been settled ever since, really, just where we are now. So
I tell you what, it's something that don't really get spoken about, is it? That those type of feelings, because you're a professional footballer, we just, as fans, we just want you to just suck it up and get on with it. But for you to go, Well, we don't know any bugger down here. It's refreshing to hear that you have normal people problems, as it were. When you were at Bristol City, did you play in the derby? Because I think they were on the way down, weren't they, at one point? And there was a cup game against Bristol Rovers. I went to it, and I want to say it was about Aidan Flint played for you guys at that time. Were you there then?
I was there then, but I weren't there for that game. I think that was maybe the year or two before I went there. Because I remember the game being on TV and watching it. I remember J. Manuel Thomas scoring a worldie. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. The Jet. I had a mate who lived in Bristol. I used to end up watching Bristol City all the bloody time. I'll move on from there. So now you've moved back up to Yorkshire. You're back around your family, and you're playing for Rotherham United. I mean, they've got the new stadium. They're starting to grow a little bit of a fan base and all the rest of it. I've got to ask: did you get any backlash from your family for signing for Rotherham to start with? Because in the news today, there's talk of George Byers and Reece James going there. I can understand it, right? I wish them all the best. If we're not offering a contract, they can stay in the area, right? What's up with that?
Yeah, no, like I say, people have got their own situations going on, and I know George has, got a family of his own, and he lives local to the area, and there's a lot to be said for having a nice family life and being close to home, and everything being happy there. I always find that if everything's right off the pitch with your family and they're all happy, then it just helps so much on the pitch as well. And these, like I said, Jay, I don't know where Reece is living at the moment, but obviously if he spent the last year or two in Sheffield, then and he likes it in Sheffield, and Rotherham are knocking on the door, then it's sort of why would I go and relocate somewhere else when I can stay at home and be happy? So totally understand it. Totally understand it. And I mean, I hope that George signs for Blackpool, but I'm not sure. I don't know what's going on with that, to be honest. I don't know whether it's even an option for him or what. But he was brilliant for us back end of the season. To be fair, it took him a few weeks just to get back into the groove of things, but he was brilliant for us.
Go, Sam.
Have you ever played in goal against Wednesday since leaving? Because I can't recollect. You have. And how's that felt?
Twice, actually, both for Bristol City. We played at Ashton Gate and we won 4-1, I believe.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And then I played at Hillsborough and I think we lost 3-2 and I chucked one in. So,
you did. Yes, you did.
Chucked one in. It's some swerve on it, though. Some swerve on it.
I tell you what, the lads must have given you some shit after that.
Jesus Christ,
that was out of the three that you conceded. That was clearly the decisive one, obviously. And the lads are going, well, we know how long you played up here, you prick. We know your game.
I think that was the first or second? I think it finished 3-2. I think we were 2-0 up. I think that might have been first goal. I can't remember. Or it's second. I can't remember. I remember Kieran Lee scoring winner. A good finish, to be fair.
But I remember that one now. Yeah, I remember that
one. Wasn't it?
That was in the dying minutes, wasn't it? Yeah.
Kieran Lee scored late. Yeah, really late. Yeah. And then, to be fair, last year I was at Rochdale obviously last year, and we played Wednesday in the Cup, and I didn't play, and I was gutted. I played obviously all the league games. We had a lad on loan from Man City who played the first round of the Cup, so he played him, and the manager, to be fair, pulled me and said, listen, I'm going to have to play him and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, right, okay. And then he scored 3 absolute worlders in first half, so I thought, probably better off sat where I am.
How does that feel then, Richard? Being a Wednesday eye, and then obviously did you accidentally, I think Big Ron got in the wrong dugout once, didn't he, when he was at Forest? And he didn't go in the home changing room and went, bugger, hang on, sorry lads.
No, do you know what? I was quite conscious of doing anything like that, so I sort of just really focused on just trying to get through the game and just not doing anything stupid. Obviously, I did something stupid at Hillsborough by letting one through my hands, but apart from that, it went quite well. Yeah.
Go on, Stevie.
Just moving on a little bit now. You say you've got a season ticket. What's your sort of involvement with the club nowadays?
Yeah, so I've been doing. I've been coaching the goalkeepers down there for the last 2.5 years now, to be fair. I've been doing it quite a while. So I started doing the under 12s to under 14s. And then this year, they wanted me to do the under 15s and 16s. So I've been doing that. I were doing it twice a week last year when I was a little bit more local. Obviously, Rochdale's not as far. This year, I'm only doing one night a week. So I've been doing Tuesday or Thursday nights with them. So, yeah, so I was doing I've done my A license in my goalkeeping, and it was something that I started doing it when I was at Bradford, the actual coaching. And I loved it, so I just carried on doing it. It's something that I want to do when I finish. So, got my season ticket through that really, and I love it. There's a lot of talent coming through, right from sort of the 14s to 16s. There's a real good group of goalkeepers there, so it's quite exciting, and having the chance to work with them and doing that's brilliant. I love doing it, and like I say, I started doing it just over 2 years ago, and in my head, I was not preparing to finish playing, but I wanted to have that. I didn't want to finish playing and then be like, right, now I've got to do some coaching and then start from scratch. I wanted to start coaching while I was still playing. And while I was doing my badges, it was a perfect one for me to do. And the club have been so accommodating with me coming in. Obviously, it's good for the lads as well, because they've got a professional goalkeeper who still plays coming in. So they sort of have that little bit of first-hand knowledge of what's going on and stuff like that, and I can use my own experiences to help them. And some of the lads have come on really, really well and really positive.
And when you talk about there being a lot of talent down there, is that you being diplomatic, or are we on the verge of unearthing the next Buffon?
I'll be diplomatic. There is a good couple of lads. Obviously, I can't name names or anything like that, but there's some good lads coming through. And obviously, you look at like Pierce, what he's done this last couple of years. He's just gone from strength to strength, and obviously got his first call up to an actual squad. I think he's trained with them before, the Ireland senior squad. But he's got his first call up to a camp, and he's some talent as well. So sort of interesting to see what they do next year with him as well, because probably needs to go and play some games, or does he hang around as a sort of 2 or a 3 and. So it'd be interesting to see what routes sort of go down with that as well.
Yeah, when we had Nicky Weaver on last week, we said to him, literally, I think we said straight out, didn't we? Is Pierce Charles that good? And he just went, yeah. And then that were it. Like just kind of moved on from there. He's a real modern goalkeeper, because, we were talking about the European off air. We were talking about leading with the top arm, and we don't really teach that in this country and stuff like that. Now, with Pierce Charles and these young kids that you're coaching and the time in which you've done your licenses, has goalkeeping changed a little bit? You know what I mean? Are you learning yourself now, and you're thinking, it just used to be being insane and chucking yourself about? What's all this playing with your feet bullshit?
It has changed so much, and I've had this conversation with Weaves actually, funnily enough, not too long ago. It's changed so much. Like when, for example, when I was playing at Sheff Wednesday, it was you could kick it as far as you're just told to kick it. There was no playing it out. You might throw the odd ball out, but you're just kicking it as far as you can down the pitch. And it's we've got a lad at Blackpool who came through at City, who was our number one, and he's unbelievable with his feet, and sees things, and he's got the ability to execute it brilliantly. And it's something that I've had to really just learn on the job. Like, these lads are brought up with it, and I've just had to learn as I've gone along, really. And I think I've sort of done it reasonably well. We play football. We play a lot of football. We play a lot of football at Blackpool, and we did at Rochdale last year as well, to be fair. So it's something that I took to and had to take to, really, because you don't get many teams that just shell it anymore. It seems to be the way that people are doing it. So
Simon, Stevie, and I are all of the age where we're in the just fucking hoof it camp, because
time and a place. There's a time and a place. It's just there's a time and a place. He's got to be. If you're playing out from the back and you're trying to play good football, there's got to be a purpose to what you're doing and what you're trying to achieve from it. It's not just doing it for the sake of it. And you see so many teams doing it for the sake of it because that's what they've been told, and acting a little bit like robots sometimes, that we're going to play out regardless of what we do, whatever they're doing, however they're pressing, we're just going to try and play out. And it's just not the way football should be. It should be, if they're pressing a certain way, where's the out ball? It might be out balls up to the front, or it might be out to the wing backs, or it might be, whatever it may be. But yes, I think sometimes it can get taken too far. There's got to be a right balance to it to actually do what you're trying to achieve, which is to get on the pitch and score a goal. It's taking the risk.
But even then, you were really diplomatic about it. But you can probably name a couple of times where Sheffield Wednesday last season specifically have played it out from the back. And like you say, they've been asleep. They've been like zombies. This is what they've been taught. This is what they're doing. And then gone, oh, shit, there's a geezer there. You know what I mean? Like, you can see it, can't you?
Well, yeah. Well, to be fair to I watched a few games towards the back end of the season, and I noticed that Beadle was getting it off the defender and then going long pretty much straight away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's obviously, what I find frustrating, right? Sometimes is people are getting told, like players get told how to play the game by managers, by the coaches.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to play this way. This is how we're playing. And when they do that, the players can sometimes get the stick for it. And it's sort of like, well, this is what we've been told to do. This is what, and that's not like blaming managers and stuff like that. It's like, but you have to realize that if you're going to do that and you're going to play football from the back, you're doing it for a reason. You're not just doing it to look good and look pretty. You're doing it to try and create overloads and somewhere to try and get further up the pitch. So it's not just a case of doing it for the sake of it. So I think sometimes there's got to be a bit of patience with what people are doing. And like I said, I've been to Wednesday games this year where I think more so probably when Cisco was the manager, where people were getting really frustrated and about how they were playing and stuff like that. But the players are out there playing how
they've been told
the manager wants them to play and how they've been told to play.
It's interesting that because, like, one of the most frustrating things that I see is when we go on an absolute bomb forward, and the opposition team are all camped in their 18-yard box, and then there'll be a couple of passes, and all of a sudden it's gone back to a centre back who's now stood on the halfway line after we were pressing, and I know in my head, having watched a lot of football, that the reason for that is to try and draw the defending team out to come and try. Yeah. I know that. But the amount of times I've gone, well, you bloody passed it back for bloody hell. You know what I mean? The Yorkshireness just comes in over rationale. Like, you know what I mean?
And I get it because fans want to see, you get into the final third, you want to see crosses, shots, all that. And I understand, everyone understands that. But sometimes it's not the right option to put in the box. Sometimes it's better off to come back, go out the other side, create a 2v1 down the other side, get a better cross in the box. And I do get it. I've been there myself. Obviously, I'm a football fan. I'm a Wednesday fan myself. So I understand that sort of comes across sometimes. But, there's always a method to the madness. And I think sometimes there has to be a bit more patience shown.
Go on, Sam.
I was going to ask you a couple of sort of questions. I know we did some with Chris Kirkland, some quick fire ones. And first, I was going to ask you is, what's your most memorable save? What out of your bank of saves, which would be quite a lot, is the one that stands out?
A Sheffield Wednesday one or anyone?
Anyone in your career?
Anyone. It was for Bristol City at Brentford away, and it was a cross from their right hand side, and the strikers headed it from maybe penalty spot. And I've got it's going in the top corner, and I've got a few steps in, and I've gone top hand, like you're just talking about there, and tipped it over the bar. And it was just, for whatever reason, that was just one of the one of the standout ones. The other one was. It's
interesting you brought that one up, Rich, because I was looking for some photos and videos of yourself, to put on the artwork and advertise this show. And that save you're talking about, I've watched about 6 times today because it's in your greatest hits. Like if you type your name into YouTube and things, it's everyone. Like I think there's a lot of people agree with you on that one, pal.
Yeah, that was one of my favourite ones. And then there was ones at Walsall when we were in the it weren't called Papa John's then, it was called Johnson's Paint Trophy. We're in the area final against Preston, and I think it was Gallagher crossed it and Beckford hit it from literally, he was by himself I probably should have come for the cross, to be fair, but probably 5 yards out, and he volleyed it, and I've done a little starfish jump like Schmeichel did. It hit my foot and went over the bar, and we ended up getting to Wembley that year, and that was the first ever time that Walsall got to Wembley. So there were some important ones in there, to be fair. So yeah, but them two probably stick out.
Have you got any more, Simon?
Yeah, who's your goalkeeper icon? Who's that goalkeeper since a kid that you've looked up to, and then going through your career?
Well, I used to love I used to love watching Kevin Pressman. Obviously, as a Wednesday fan, I used to love him. He was left-footed like me as well, so I sort of I used to love him. But overall, I would say like David James, he was, and the reason and Joe Hart as well a little bit. But David James, the reason I love David James so much, right, is because he was so erratic most of the time. But he'd come for a cross that was 12 yards out and he'd miss it. But then if it happened again, he'd still come for it, and he'd keep going and keep going and keep going. And he had no like fear of anything. And Joe Hart was a little bit like that as well. So them two were sort of, and Kevin Pressman, them three were sort of the big ones.
And I was going to ask you one more. You obviously played at Wednesday when Lee Grant was there. We made a bit of money out of Lee Grant, didn't we, when we sold him?
Oh, look at us.
Yeah, I know. Unusual that, Wednesday selling players for an amount of money. And he went on for a great career. What was he like? Did you enjoy playing under him? Good lad.
Top goalkeeper, and what a good guy as well. So again, another one of them people that I still speak to now. He came to my wedding. I went to his wedding. We were close, obviously really close when he was at the club, and still speak to him now. Obviously just got promoted at Ipswich as well, which is really not funny, but he doesn't do any goalkeeping coaching at Ipswich. He's a first team coach. He's got his like pro license and everything. He wants to be a manager. Yeah, so he's but yeah, top guy, and what a goalkeeper it was, by the way. How good was he at Wednesday? He was different class, wasn't he?
Yeah,
really, probably one of the most underrated ones we've ever had. He was different class. He was such an athlete. Like his spring and his power was just something else. And like I say, he ended up going to Stoke and I think he played at Stoke in the Premier League, and then went to Man United in the Premier League. So obviously doing something right. He was he deserves everything he's got. He was a top guy and a top goalkeeper.
Amazing.
Brilliant.
Oh, that's nice to hear, because sometimes you're like, you get like a real diplomatic, well, we don't speak much anymore, which means, well, we had a tear up at some point. You know what I mean?
It's funny. Do you know what's really funny as well? This makes me, I felt so old at the time. So we didn't train for a couple of days on our pitches this year because the rain was that bad. The pitches were like, we couldn't use them. So we played a game against Man City at their training ground this year, and it was against their like 23s, 18s, and his lad played against us. True.
True.
So True was probably he must have been 3, 4, 5-year-old when he was at Sheff Wednesday, and I was playing against him in this game, and I'm thinking, oh my god, I feel so old. And to be fair, True is going to be a good goalkeeper as well. He's played for England at 18s, I think, and to be at Man City at 18, I think I don't know if he's 17 or 18, but to be at Man City at that age, you're going to be a good goalkeeper. And so he's got a good chance as well, to be honest.
Oh God, I
felt so old that day.
That's hit me right in the age. That has. Stevie, before we wrap this up, is there anything you'd like to add?
I was just going to sort of round it off, bringing it back to being a bit of a Wednesday eye, if that's all right, and just thoughts on last season and thinking about next year. Where do you see things in terms of rule and what's going to happen in terms of next year?
Well, yeah, I mean this year, I mean it's just been such a mental couple of years, hasn't it? Like I say, I went to the Peterborough away game, and everyone's thinking the same thing, that it's game over. I went to the other game at Hillsborough, and to be fair, I've gone into that game probably like a few others, and I thought, do you know if they get 2-0 up at half time here, I think they've got a chance. And I'm saying to me like Archie was in tears at Peterborough away, and I'm like, Archie, like I'm telling you, like if they go 2-0 up at half time, they'll have a chance. And anyway, he was crying his eyes out again for happiness at the end of the game, and it was just such a roller coaster. No, we didn't go on pitch. No, we didn't go on pitch. And then obviously we went to Wembley, watched that, and that was just incredible. That month was just ridiculous, weren't it? Like incredible. Yeah. And then going into this year, obviously such a disappointment the way they started, and I went to 2 games while Cisco was the manager, and I just didn't see what they were trying to do. I didn't see any style of play. I didn't see anything to give me a little bit of hope of what was going on, I'll be honest. And I'm thinking like I'm looking at the lads, and obviously I know still a few of them, and they didn't look like they knew what they were doing. They looked clueless themselves. And like I say, that, as I said earlier, that comes from what they're getting told and what they're getting told to do. And it was painful to watch, to be totally honest. And then obviously watched them again probably 4, 5, 6 times since Danny Rowe got the job. And I just couldn't believe the difference in the players, a lot of them the same players, and the way they were performing, what they were doing, how hard they were working. And the job he's done is it's just been phenomenal. And it has been phenomenal. If you'd have said back in December or whatever it was, that I think, what was the highest it got to? Maybe 14 points adrift, was it? Something along them lines.
Yeah, it did, for like a day, didn't it? Yeah, we were gone. It
would. So the job he's done is, it's got to be right up there for manager of the season. And obviously you've got Kieran McKenna, who's done a miracle job there as well. But like, it's just been phenomenal. And like I said, the biggest thing is as a fan, you're coming to watch matches, and you can see exactly what they're doing. You can see them absolutely, each and every one of them grafting for each other, and it was so good to watch. So yeah, obviously going into next season, obviously I'm hoping they have a little bit of backing and a bit of money spent, and they can obviously let Danny Rowe sort of do his thing and get some good players in. And I can't see why they can't go and have a really good season. Really, everything's there for him. You know, the feel good factors around the club again, like it was last summer. There's a really good feel. I know that they're trying to do a few bits with the training ground from what I've seen while I've been down there, and a few little improvements here and there. So it looks like he's backing the manager to go on giving him what he wants, and hopefully he does that in the transfer market as well, and they can go and have a really, really good go at it.
Amazing. Stay on the line, Richard, but I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and join us next time. See you later. Hello, good evening, and welcome to another special episode of Al's Alumni Wednesday Week podcast. I'll start again. I like it.
Oh, it's so professional.
I've only been doing it 14 years.
Mate, he's the one that's been doing it the longest, and he's the best out of a lot of us.
Quality.
Fuck's sake. Oh, that's going to go in the credits now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, mate. Got it.
All right.
Actually has a shot, but it goes the other way.
Lebas.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Week.
A little bit older than you.
I'm not touching this topic. I'm not touching it.
Yeah.
Mediocre, mid-table, rabble.
So I just want to be able to talk as much
If you
crap.
play a night game, he has to turn the bloodlines on.
No one would have believed that he would keep his job for as long as he had. But